Hi YouTube friends, it's Anna the Paladin. It's been such a long time since I've last made a video, and to be honest, I feel a bit nervous about making this, cause can I even still do it, or did I forget how to? So the topic of this video is a topic that I've spoken about before, but my previous video about social anxiety, it was more in the style of a confession. And I feel like since then, a lot of things have fallen into place more, and I do think it must be at least a year ago that I made that video, maybe even more. Could be even 2 years. I don't know. I didn't look it up. But I feel like there has been quite some progression in my relationship to social anxiety. And yeah, it's always my thing here that I am vulnerable about my journey, especially with my struggles. And, if I gain some insights that I could help other people with, I really care about sharing that. So that's what I want to do. I feel like my social anxiety has decreased a lot lately. And that also goes together with having had a lot of tough life experiences and getting through those tough life experiences, really, like overcoming them. And I feel like I have a greater understanding now of what was causing my social anxiety in the first place, which may be interesting for other INFJs to know, and like people in general. And I think I also understand a bit more about what helped me get through that social anxiety. So what used to be my situation with social anxiety, there have been times where it was pretty bad for me. I was overthinking every social interaction, feeling very insecure about my performance in social situations, and sometimes even with family, I would feel the social anxiety. So not just with people that I didn't know. And yeah, I remember really being in this feeling of low self-worth, like I'm not saying the right things, I am not saying enough, I'm not performing well, so people will not care about me, they will not like to interact with me, they will not want to be friends with me. So it's really this kind of dark mindset. And I would have situations that would trigger me in particular, which is something I still get. It's just that the amount of situations that trigger me have decreased a lot, and that when I do have such a triggering situation, I am much better able to be with that trigger and do my thing anyway. And I think in the past I was a lot stronger on coping techniques where you are avoiding the situation. So you act kind of cold, standoffish, and you actually avoid social interactions sometimes to deal with it, or it's like you are pretending to be anti-social instead of, showing what is the reality, which is that you really do crave connection and you do crave to be social, but you just feel afraid and awkward to do it. So yeah, one coping strategy is to, hide. and like close yourself off in a way, which I have heard other people do as well. It's something that I've read about in a book about social anxiety as well, that I've read in the meantime. I just don't remember exactly what they called it in that book, but it's a thing. I'm sorry. On the other hand, the thing with me was that I was always facing my social anxiety to quite some extent as well, because clearly I did have this desire to have connection with other people. And that desire was so strong that I would do relatively crazy stuff for someone that has social anxiety. So I went to this community when I was 18 and exposed myself to a whole bunch of people that I've never met before from different cultures. And yeah, there were a lot of uncomfortable feelings in that situation, a lot of social anxiety, but I put myself out there in that situation anyway. And that actually brought me a lot as well. So, okay, that's for my past with social anxiety. And then I would like to get into where I think my social anxiety came from in my specific situation. And as the word specific says, it's really specific to my personal life story because it's very much connected to the things that happened on my path in my childhood, especially. But I think it might still apply to other people as well, other INFJs as well. I can imagine that other INFJs may have similar stories, just like slightly different variation of the same story, because we do have certain tendencies and they tend to come out on our life paths in some way. So I'm just going to share that with you and hopefully it's useful. So in my personal story, I have received a lot of crap on my performance as a child. And an important thing that played into that was that I was chronically depressed as a child. I always say I was chronically depressed between 9 and 13 years old. And the dynamic when you are chronically depressed as a child is that, first of all, you don't feel motivated to do anything. And because you don't feel motivated to do anything, you tend to not do anything really well. And because you are not putting in the effort to be good at things. And because of that, you will get bad results on the things you do. And because you get bad results on the things you do, you get bad feedback on the things that you do from your environment. So you get the message that you are not good at doing things. For example, you are bad at school performance. And the tough thing is that when you are a child, you are still forming your image of yourself. You are forming your identity. So whatever feedback you are getting from your environment, it's much more likely to be internalized. I mean, adults also internalize feedback from the environment, but for children, it's much, much worse because you don't have an image of what you are. You don't have this basic level of this is who I am, and that would give you resilience if you had that basic feeling of identity. But as a child, you are still developing that. So whatever feedback you are getting from your environment, and especially your parents or other trusted people, it's going to do a lot to form your feeling of identity. So if you are basically only getting back bad feedback about everything you are doing, you're going to internalize that as I suck, basically. So that's what I did believe as a child, in a way. At least subconsciously. I don't know if I really thought that consciously, like I suck, but that was the feeling that I had. And like most of all, it would be about my performance sucked. So my performance sucks, so that means I suck, basically. That's how it feels. And yeah, so that really played into giving me bad self-worth, which I think was an important cause for why I got social anxiety a bit later on. And what else? I don't know, but as a teenager, I was extremely lonely and not interacting with many people at all, really having a hard time with that. So it also makes sense that coming from that place of extreme loneliness and really feeling stuck in that, that it would be hard to reach out to people and connect, it makes more sense that such a context would make you overthink social interactions a lot because it becomes so heavy. Like there's so much at stake because you want to connect so badly with people, but in a way you are not even used to it. Like there's no automatic thing to fall back onto. So that's for how I think my social anxiety came into being, like my tough experiences as a child that resulted in me having a lot more difficulty with social situations and feeling triggered by certain situations. But as I said, I feel like I have improved so much on my social anxiety that I rarely ever get it anymore. And I'm so grateful for that. So I would like to share with you what I think has helped me on my journey, even when sometimes it wasn't really directly me trying to overcome it. It was more things that came on my path, the insights I had, and the skills with myself that I gained that turned out to help me with it. So I do get triggered a lot less often. And I think part of that is also just building like exposure and building positive experiences. So that makes it a bit more complicated. But I think the way that I do deal with my triggers now is really significant as well. Because I think the most important thing for me to do when I do feel triggered by a situation is to really accept my difficult feelings about that. And, to maybe give compassion to myself on that, to really let myself feel that and to give myself love in a way, So if I do feel a social anxiety trigger, I will actually take a moment to close my eyes and be fully present with what I'm feeling and, breathing love into it and being understanding that, I have dealt with this social anxiety for so long and I've come so far in how I am dealing with that. And I know this kind of situation will trigger me. Usually it would be like something like a party where I don't know many people, or especially just being in a larger group where I don't know people well. That tends to be my one and only trigger these days. So when when I need to get in such a situation, then yeah, I take that time for myself to be compassionate about what I'm feeling. And the whole thing is that this is a practice that I've been doing with my feelings a lot in general. And I've also made a video about that a few months ago, which I will link you to in the corner. Definitely worth watching that, even though maybe I would have new things to say about that already, but it still explains like my way of looking at my own feelings, of giving myself love. The whole concept of self-love was always so abstract to me. Like, what do you even mean? And through my difficult life experiences of the last year, I actually came into the insight of what self-love means to me. So that's very significant, and that also plays into how I'm able to deal with something like social anxiety. So definitely give that a watch as well, because I won't go into it that deeply here. Except for, apply that self-love to whatever you are feeling about the social anxiety, because you are worth your own love. I tell you. And you don't need anybody else. You don't need anything to love yourself. You will always have that. So it's worth investing in that, even if it seems so cheesy and cliche. Another important ingredient, I think, is that it's important to stop overthinking social interactions. I think a lot of people that lean towards social anxiety, they are big overthinkers. This is also why INFPs are also typical people who have social anxiety, and they do overthink a lot. They spend a lot of time thinking in their heads, but it's the same for INFJs. INFJs are also big overthinkers. And I think it's just good to realize that being social is not something that you need a PhD for. The idea is that anyone can do it. If you think you cannot do it, you are probably overcomplicating it. You are putting the bar too high for yourself. And people are trashing on small talk, and that makes things so unnecessarily complicated. If you want to avoid small talk, it's silly, because small talk is there for a purpose. Small talk is just like your starting point for deep conversation. I mean, you can also stay on the shallow conversation forever. And as we know as INFJs, and as we grieve about as INFJs, quite a lot of people stay on that surface level. But even if you do want to get into deep conversation, the small talk is necessary, because you're not going to jump right in with the deepest, most vulnerable questions and conversation topics. You need to ease into that. Even with the people that you are close to, you are still going to ask them how they are doing when you are starting a conversation, because how you are doing is a starting point for, basically you are asking what is your theme right now, at least if someone actually answers that question. And what is your theme right now is a really good starting point for a deep conversation. So in a way, even now I'm overthinking small talk in a way, but at least I am advocating for it. Like, small talk is good. Small talk is necessary, and it's something that you can use as a tool to move on to deeper topics. And so the fact that small talk is necessary is just part of reality, and is better to deal with whatever reality is, because that's what you have to work with. Then this has been an important realization for me in general, but that's another topic. And then lastly, I think what also helped me is my attitude towards connecting with people. Because another thing I am so grateful for is how much connection I am experiencing with people in my life currently. It really is at a point where, yeah, like I've always wished for that. I've always wished to be surrounded by friends that I felt connected to. And there are some realizations that come together with my success in that, I think. And I will just get into it shortly because this could also be a whole other video topic. But what it comes down to is that I started to focus on what do I have in common with whomever I am in an interaction with. So instead of looking for this perfect match, like this soul-mate person to connect with, I find things to connect over with basically anyone. And with some people it's more, with other people it's less. But yeah, in a way I appreciate that every person is giving me a different piece that I can connect with, and I can be like a slightly different version of myself with everyone and discover new experiences, different experiences of life. And at the same time, I have also received a lot of proof that there are plenty of things that I can connect on with other people, which was really something that was very difficult for me to believe maybe 8 years ago. But I think that mindset of I don't need to match about everything with the people that I'm friends with has really helped me in that. Like to facilitate getting more proof as well of I can find connection anywhere, basically. So I think this is it for my rambles about social anxiety. It's just, it's a lot of different puzzle pieces from all over the place. So I would really call it a ramble about social anxiety. But hopefully you have found something useful somewhere in my rambles, some insight for yourself, some recognition, maybe some idea of something that you can work on to improve your social anxiety for yourself. I don't know. I just felt like sharing my journey and my insights, and yeah, it was pretty vulnerable. Again, this video, as I mentioned, is my thing. So if you feel like sharing something in the comments, I would be really happy to read that because I really like interacting with you, having that connection with you, seeing how things resonate with you, or even if things do not resonate with you, it's also interesting. It makes it a lot more interesting for me. And yeah, give this video a like if you liked it, and consider subscribing to my YouTube channel so that if I make a video again someday, you will know about it. And I do think more videos are coming now. So thank you also for your patience in waiting for me to make another video for so long. And see you soon, hopefully. Have a nice day.